Welcome, everybody, to the C-Suite Sherpa podcast. I'm your host, Brian Marshall, where we shine a spotlight on great resources for the C-Suite. And speaking of great resources, we've got Jonathan Levy from Levy Consulting. So, Jonas, tell us a bit of your business and who you work with.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. And it's a pleasure to be here talking a little bit about business and the things we're passionate about. So Levy Consulting Co., we're a fractional COO consulting firm specializing in executive operations consulting. But we take a much more hands-on approach and emphasize a lot on implementation with our clients. So ideally, we're working with lots of companies that are in a mid or a growth stage, typically an owner-operator, a very small leadership team, and they need not only the strategic support that comes with the fractional COO and that type of role, but also somebody who they can trust to execute on specific projects and actions and really build change within their organization and help them with all of the million duties that they have as a founder or owner or whatever it might be. Yeah, we've been doing this for just about 3 years. We're actually coming up on our anniversary next month, our 3-year anniversary.
Congratulations. You look good for 3.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been kind to me. But we work with a wide variety of industries because we've realized that outside of warehouse logistics, which is a whole different animal, business problems are business problems, and most of them come down to leaders who don't have the support that they need. And so we've worked with everybody from hospitality and retail to quasi-governmental agencies, economic development, and everything in between. Because leaders, at the end of the day, value and need the support from somebody who they can trust.
Yeah. So, I don't know about you, but we do a lot of similar work, tangential to what you do. And I find that leaders, especially today with the way the world is changing and the challenges we have, they're getting so wrapped up in the execution, the day-to-day, that they don't step back. Absolutely. And they don't have a chance to they're letting short-term circumstances dictate long-term decisions. So I'm curious, is that something you deal with? And if it is, how do you help them step back and make good strategic decisions?
Absolutely. I'm seeing the same thing all across the business landscape. And I think it's indicative of the time that we're in, where we're hyper connected to everything. And we have all these tools to know everything about our business on a daily level. But on the other hand, because we have this enormous wealth of information, it becomes overwhelming and easy to just focus on, like you said, the day-to-day tasks and get bogged down in the details. So what we do when we engage with clients is we emphasize that we're here not just to take tasks off your plate, that's a part of it, but not just to do that, but to help be a support and confidant and advisor for you on a strategic level as a business owner or business leader. And that's on a one-to-one basis. That's not, me coming in with your team and doing a couple workshop sessions, which we do. It's continued long-term accountability. I don't like the word coaching, but in effect, it's sort of like coaching, but it's more tangible and practical and not just rah, you're going to do well because you're amazing. Let's talk about why these things are bothering you. What's actually on your plate? What's your vision? What's the why behind all of these minutia and the details that you're trying to get caught up in? Let's think about what even got you here in the first place and what it is about your business that has gotten you to this part in your life and in your career. And often leaders in those positions have never taken the time or never had the time to reflect like that. And they've never had somebody push them on it either because everybody reports to them. And so we really find a lot of value in being someone who's outside the organization, who is on a similar level in terms of capability and career and everything else, but is truly invested in helping them be a better person and a better business leader. Often you can imagine it's, let's talk about your tasks and your goals. We've also helped clients plan an engagement party. We've helped clients understand that his role was actually not appropriate, and he shifted into a C-suite leadership role out of he was calling himself executive director role, which was much more task oriented. And it really depends on the person, as it always does, but it's really that time and attention and the rapport that we build that makes the big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there are a lot of people that do what we do. And I put us in the same category because we're providing advisory service, consulting services, coaching service, whatever word you want to use. So what sets you apart? What is it about the way you approach this that differentiates you from maybe other folks in the same space?
Sure. One thing that sets us apart, and which is also sort of the impetus for our company in a lot of ways, is that we are focused on the individuals that make up the company. And that's everybody from the leader at the top and what drives and motivates them, what scares them, what bothers them, all the way down to frontline employees and what their experiences are working in the company and working in the role. Because we understand that no matter how good of a system you have, whether it's proprietary or open source or whatever it might be, it comes down to the people who are experiencing it and living it every day. And if they aren't happy, if they aren't equipped with all the tools and skills and knowledge that they need, you will never be able to get the most out of the people who work with you and for you. And so we spent a lot of time focusing on the people element, and not from an HR perspective. That always creeps in because there's performance in those
Right.
pieces. But getting to know teams on a really personal level and developing a trust and rapport with the people who are not only our direct client, but the people who work for our client goes a long way in getting buy-in. Because often, as I'm sure you experience, we're coming into a situation where maybe they've never tried a system before. Maybe they're on their 18th system, and maybe they've had a consultant come in and give them a big report that's extensive, but they didn't get anything actionable. Sometimes they even get a report, an action plan, and everything. But when it comes down to the actual execution at the level of the company on the day to day, there's no additional support there, and that everything inevitably kind of fizzles out. We pride ourselves in being able to come in those situations and help them understand not only what's best in the systems they should use, but how we make this real. How does it actually work for you and your company in this exact moment, not theoretically in a meeting, in a conference, in a report? Like, what is the truth here?
Yeah, yeah. I was smiling when you mentioned something that might seem odd to others. You help facilitate or plan an engagement party.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, when you become someone they really trust, you're almost like a member of the family.
Mhm.
I actually matched two companies that were clients of mine in the same town, matched the oldest son with the oldest daughter, and got them to engage and get married. I
That's
mean,
like a reverse
it
Romeo and
was
Juliet. That's great.
it was one of those things where I could see it. I mean, I could
Yeah,
see there was
sure.
something going on there, but there was never any conversation. I'm like,
Were they competitors?
they were two different religions. So
Okay.
there were religious barriers, and it was always a question between the two families whether there was something going on there, whether it was chemistry there. And next thing I knew, they're making an announcement. You never know what you're going to get involved in. And I think it speaks to the relationships, right? So it sounds like you
Yes.
build really deep trust-based relationships and you're focused on doing the right thing for the family or for the client, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And just briefly, we not only do we have this initial engagement, which is always problem oriented, but often we keep on a longer term with our clients, which usually a much smaller scope and engagement fee, as a long-term trusted partner. So we're meeting biweekly or monthly or whatever it might be. And it's about enhancing and maintaining that relationship that you just highlighted, because that
Yeah.
at the end of the day and multiple years down the line is what is valuable to that client.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, I've got 90 seconds before we're going to shift to another
Yeah.
segment of the podcast. So, two-part question, biggest challenge that your clients are facing, and then how do you see things evolving
Mm.
in the future? Maybe biggest challenges coming up down the line. So,
I would say the biggest challenge facing my clients right now is going to be navigating what this modern workplace actually looks like. Now, we've, of course, all lived a big moment that was historic with a shift from work to home and then potentially shifting back to the office. We've fully gone digital and into the cloud, and everything has happened so rapidly. A lot of companies, most companies that we've worked with actually, have not been able to chart a clear path through all of that because everybody recognizes that these tools are essential to the future of business. And there's, at least in the people who get it, there is no question about the value that they add. The question that comes into play, which is often kind of that question they don't even know how to ask, is what does this mean for my people? What does this mean for my business and how it operates? As we're not replacing people's jobs, we're enhancing their jobs with these tools, and we're enhancing the capabilities of our company and our productivity and whatever it might be. And so the people element becomes more and more important. And whether it's companies having difficulty with recruiting, which we see a lot of, especially in more senior roles, or it's retaining staff or ensuring productivity. Ironically enough, productivity is all over the place, even with all these tools at our fingertips.
right.
And where does the technology fit in with that altogether is kind of the biggest challenge that comes together in front of us. I just had a meeting this morning with a client who's been bouncing between product management softwares for years and they can't get their team to buy into anything. How do we get our team to actually use these tools? How do we
Right.
get them to log in every day and understand that they check the Asana board and then we check our emails and we got an email AI assistant, like all of those pieces that are right there and have been there and nobody's using them. Nobody's responding in Slack. All of it is just about adoption and not so much about access. So that's a consistent problem. We've seen that across almost every single industry we've worked in. Hospitality is probably the one that hasn't really touched as much. I think there's maybe something in the future there, but people are still serving food in person. So that's still
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, for now.
Yeah,
The
for
robots,
now.
till
For
the
now.
robots and AI take over, right?
Well, that'll just be more premium at that point because you can get it from a robot or you can get to
There you
your
go.
human bartender. So that's one of probably the biggest challenge that we see. And then some of the biggest opportunities we see is the opposite side of that coin, is the technology that's out there. And the teams that we've been able to get used to these ideas, especially around AI, and how they are tools that can enhance your business and enhance the lives of your people who work for you, and not some scary thing that's going to blow up in our face, the better off that they are, because it's inevitable. It's coming. The shape it's going to take changes constantly, but there's going to be a revolution. There's going to continue to be a revolution in how we work, and as well on what we do with our work. I've had clients who've started to shift from understanding that it's not strictly a task-based service they offer now, but it's now mostly customer service and relationship management, because the work of the tasks is now being done by systems and AI. It's still valuable to their client, but what does that mean for our staff? And so the successful ones have shifted into focusing on relationships and customer experience, while understanding that we have these systems to operate the tasks in the background more effectively than any human really could. So I see that as a really pivotal point within the very near future, and probably long term, is what does that mean? What does our workplace look like? Are we working from home, or we're working in the office? All of it is still up in the air right now.
Yeah.
My hot take is that we probably should be in person, although we should also be a little bit more flexible. We're social creatures. And now here we
It's a
are.
hybrid world we live
Yeah,
in. You're right. We need connection. And I have a feeling you and I can probably talk about this for another 2 hours,
absolutely.
but let's pivot here. I've got one thing I want to do with you. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
You've seen it before. It's called the lightning round. And just some quick questions, quick answers, whatever comes to mind, no wrong answers.
sure.
So if you're ready.
Let's do it.
All right. So easy one, coffee or tea?
Coffee, espresso if I can.
Here you go. Cats or dogs?
Dogs,
If you can only grab one item right before the zombie apocalypse breaks out, what would it be?
sketchbook.
Okay. Movie or a streaming series that you'd recommend?
I have been really into the Invincible series,
Okay.
animated superhero show.
Oh,
It's completely mindless, but also very entertaining and a quick diversion, which is sometimes what we need when we think about important things.
how about a book? A book that's influenced you that you'd recommend?
I am I'm an artist. I didn't bring that up before, and I studied painting, and I have a background in the humanities. So I've been reading a wide variety of things over my life, and I keep coming back to The Count of Monte Cristo. It's one of my favorite novels of all time. I got a copy on my bedside table right now that I'm rereading, the fully unabridged version this time, which is
Cool.
admittedly very long, but
No, that's great. And that's a book I've never read, so that might be
highly
something
recommend
I
it.
can check it out. Yeah. Okay, bucket list item that you've already accomplished, something you've already done that's on your bucket list.
Something that I've already done that's on my bucket list was travel to do 3 different continents.
And how about one bucket list item you have not accomplished yet, but you plan on actually doing?
Ooh, one that I have not accomplished yet. I have always wanted to travel to Southeast Asia. I don't know,
Okay.
something about it. I think it'd be a really amazing place to visit. And
I highly recommend it. I've done it several times. Just the cultural aspects of it alone are well worth it.
that's all the encouragement I needed. Now I just got
That's all you needed to hear.
yeah.
Well, cool. So listen, before we let you go, and appreciate you being on the podcast, people are watching this and they want to get connected with you. What's the best way to reach out to you? And by the way, I'll put it all in the description. It's in the video
Sure.
description below.
Best way to reach out is honestly through our website. We got a contact form in there that goes right to my inbox. The virtue of being a small business is that it's actually me who handles all of the inquiries, keeps them all in one cohesive place so you don't get lost in the noise. So our website is levyconsultingco.com. There's a contact form on there. Please reach out. You can also find me on LinkedIn, of course.
We'll post all that on the description for the video. Jonathan, thank you for being on the podcast. I've really enjoyed talking to you. And folks, I highly recommend reach out to Jonathan. You can't do this alone. Business is not meant to be a solo sport. You need a team.
not.
You need a Sherpa. And Jonathan sounds like a great one.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
You got it, Jonathan.